Gamers, 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 gamers. Gamers, gamers, gamers. So I'm going to be yapping about Dragonquest Dai and how it's one of the best animes that have ever come out in the history of our nation, the anime nation. That's right. Fuck the anime zone. Screw anime man. And everything else that comes in between. I think that Dragonquest Dai is a really good old shonen manga that came out I don't even know a few years ago. By a few I mean like probably a decade or two ago. But they made a new anime, and that's why I'm making this video, because it's coming out onto Crunchyroll. Not Crunchyroll. I'm getting shit fucked up. Cut. Anyways, they're getting released onto Netflix. And when you're seeing this, it should already be out. It's coming out to Netflix on the US side, which is pretty hype, pretty exciting. It made me want to talk about Dragon Quest Dai more. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I think more people should check out this anime. I think that now that it is coming out on Netflix, which is one of the biggest streaming platforms in the world, that you guys should take advantage of that if you're paying the $5 a month or whatever it is, or $10 a month for Netflix. You should watch it. Yes, it's long. Yes, it does have a lot of content to sit through, and some of it may seem generic at first glance if you see a few reviews or if you see a few trailers. One may think like, oh, that's just too much content, man. Like, I can't keep up with that. It's like a whole nother Dragon Ball. And you're right in the sense that it is long like Dragon Ball, but it is also really, really good like Dragon Ball. And some big fans of it may say it's even better, which I agree with, because I think Dragon Ball is a great anime. I think Dragon Ball Original is really good. I've watched all of it. I think Dragon Ball Z is really good. I watched all of it. I think Dragon Ball GT was okay. I watched all of it. I think Dragon Ball Super was really good. I also watched all of that. And I think Dragon Quest Dai could have been the next Dragon Ball, because I'm pretty sure it came out after it. I will fact check this. But anyways, I think, I think it's a really good show. I think a lot of people will be doing a disservice for not checking it out, just because of the fact that it is not talked about as much. So they will see the title card, or they'll see like maybe one tweet about it, because this anime did come out in 2020. It's kind of old news, but I think it's still something that should be looked at by everyone. I think it's a really good show. And again, I'll explain a little bit why. I think the pacing overall for the show was really good. I think that what they did with the main character Dai was kind of different in terms of other shonens, in terms of like how they like make this character not so freaking OP at the start. He does get OP, as most shonens do, but at the start obviously he started off a little bit weaker, and that's what they did with him, not just physically but emotionally as well. He's a strong-hearted kid, but he's also like, super vulnerable to like his emotions and all that kind of jazz. That goes for like side characters as well. The side characters are really interesting. There are a total of like 3 main protagonists, kind of 4, kind of 5, kind of 6, but there is going to be a big focus on the top 3, and I think they all have really good strengths. The story never really it never really sidetracks itself from like the main objective that you get from the start of the show. I think in comparison to like other shows one may watch on Netflix, or might just force themselves to just watch, is kind of like shorter shows that just kind of are very linear and don't really have much promise. Even when you watch like the first 2 or 3 episodes, you kind of like get the feeling like, oh, like I kind of know where this might go, and I don't know if I should force myself to watch through all of it. But Dragon Quest Dai is one of those shows where you don't really need to know anything about Dragon Quest. You don't really need to know anything about shonens. You can just really hop into the first 2 episodes, even 3, and then you'll like immediately pick up the pace of what it's trying to tell you. You'll understand what kind of story it's trying to tell. I can even compare this to like regular cartoon shows like, I don't know, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and just other shows of that nature that have like an actual story to it, but it does feel like, a little bit cartoonish. they do have mature themes. They talk on a lot of topics and themes, and I think it can be mature if you're willing to accept those topics, and if you're able to, like, receive it in general. So yeah, I think this show, it just has a lot of positive points to it. I think the main character Dai and his sidekicks just do a lot in the story. They're not just going from point A to B with no reason. A lot of the side characters get development. I think that's a big part of the story. I think that's a big part of what makes the show great. It's kind of the fact that, like, these characters are so detailed in terms of, like, not just the animation, but, like, their actual characters themselves, their motivations, their fears, and all that stuff. Like, everything about them just kind of is very detailed, and I like that a lot, considering the fact that a lot of characters nowadays in shows, or even before, they were just kind of one-dimensional. They were tropes and stuff. There aren't really that many tropes, I don't think, in the show. I think a lot of it has very unique stories for each character. It is a very wholesome show. I think that is something that you can obviously kind of tell from just even looking at a trailer or two. It's very wholesome. They don't really deviate too much from that. Again, there is a lot of fighting because it is shonen. It does follow a lot of those formulas, but in probably the best way that you can do it, especially in terms of the day and age that this was made in. And I think it translated really well into 2020 animation, as it was not really held back by animation. You can kind of tell because they did experiment a little bit. They do have some 3D parts in the later sections of the show, which are completely fine. I think they're actually really good, in my opinion. I don't think it's even fine. I don't think it's good. I think it's really good. But for other people that are a bit more critical, they will probably just say it's fine, which is honestly a compliment in comparison to, like, other animes that have tried 3D animation. And again, in 2020, it wasn't, like, crazy good, and even now it's not, but it still is really good for what they were attempting to go for. And I think the fight scenes are actually enhanced with a lot of the 3Ds that they did do. Again, that most of the fights are not in 3D. I want to say maybe like 3% or 4% of the total runtime of the show is used with 3D, and I think it does it a benefit instead of a disservice. You can check out some clips, of course, and you can be the judge of it yourself, or you can just check out some of the fight scenes. I think even without context, you can still find them pretty hype. Again, you don't have to be a Dragon Quest fan. It does add on if you are one, because you'll find things familiar, but you don't need any of that at all, really, to understand the show. I'm not the biggest Dragon Quest fan. I do like it. I do understand it. But again, most people can watch it with, like, their kids. I know Dragon Quest is a very family-friendly series in general, especially in Japan. People play the games with their families. And I think they intended to do the same thing with their movies and TV shows, and this is the first TV show of Dragon Quest that they have done. They did it with the original Dragonquest Dai, as I mentioned, and they did have an original anime series, which you can also watch on, like, YouTube and stuff, which is not that bad, especially from what I expected. I had really low expectations when I first watched it on YouTube, and I think it was pretty good for what it was. They did not finish the entire series, though, because the series is generally long. They did the complete manga in the new anime version of it, in the 2020 version, which is what a lot of fans wanted, and they did that. They actually came out of nowhere, really, and just started pumping out all of these episodes. It aired completely from 2020 to, like, the end of 2020 or 2021 and stuff. And yeah, it just did really good in terms of, like, the animation, the story, like, everything they were trying to do. They copied a lot of the characters' expressions, emotions, like, to the T. In my opinion, I think they did really well. It's not cringy in a lot of aspects. I don't think there was obviously one or two cringy moments, but throughout the whole show, you kind of understand, like, again, what they're trying to tell and what they're trying to do. And I think overall it just turned out really well. I think they should have their efforts realized and recognized, and I think it would be really cool if this animation just got more love so that we can get more cool animation instead of 5,000 more isekais that nobody really wants to watch, but it's kind of forced to watch because we don't have long running shows like this anymore. And Dragon Quest Dai is a long show, so you definitely need to watch it over the course of a few weeks or whatever. But I think it definitely is worth the watch, like throughout the whole thing. I think sticking through it, just like One Piece, is kind of like really worth your time and effort. And it really is effortless when you do start to delve into the world. I want to say around like episode 13 is where it really hooked me. I think that the way that they were trying to tell the stories with the villains, especially, they had super good villains, even all the way throughout to the end of the series. The villains just kept getting more and more developed, and also just more interesting. I feel like the fights were really good, well animated. The fighting sequence between the characters were really good as well, and I think just everything got resolved in a really good way towards the end, which I'll talk about more later. But yeah, I think the enemies were just really good. There are quite a lot of them, but they each do feel different, and there is just a lot of things that they experimented with all of these characters, and I think that's really cool. So yeah, I definitely recommend checking it out. Oh, and really quickly, I also do want to mention the music. That's also a really big part of what hooked me in to the show when I first started watching it. I think the music was freaking amazing. I think there's only like one track that I didn't really like as much in comparison to all the other ones, because they are just straight bangers. So if you don't even check out the anime itself, if for whatever reason you're just like, it doesn't seem like my cup of tea, whatever it is, that's fine. I think you should at least check out, the 3-minute songs, the openings specifically, and the endings for Dragon Quest Dai. I think they're all really good. Again, there's just like one of them that I didn't like as much. I think you'll know what I mean. They're kind of J-rocky, kind of pop-ish, but I think all the songs were really good in that. There's two specific ones. I think the first opening is really good, since like episode 1, and then like the first ending, those were the ones that I really liked the most. So if you're into J music, Japanese music at all, or anime type music, then I think you would really like it. And if not, even then, you can still check it out. I think it's something I should have mentioned as well a little earlier, but I definitely recommend you checking that out before you even consider not watching the show at all. You could maybe even see some spoilers from the opening and then be like, maybe it looks kind of interesting. But yeah, I think that's a big part of why I stuck through with it, because the music was really good. The OST, like played throughout the anime, was really well timed. It was always matching the scene. They had really hype background music for fighting. They had really hype sad music. Well, not really hype, but you know what I mean. Like, they had really good sad music, timed really well, and they had just the perfect timings for a lot of the music that they played throughout the show. And a lot of it's like original stuff that, some of it's tropey, but it works for the anime, and I just recommend checking that out as well. Just the OST, the music, and all that jazz. So yeah, with that being said, I think most people should try and check out, at least give it a shot, Dragon Quest Dai. I think it is a very good show that just needs to be talked about a little bit more, so that, again, animators and people in the industry that make these kind of shows understand and know that people are interested in these kind of stories. And through word of mouth, more people will just kind of check out their other stuff, like games, content, movies, and it just can grow from there. I feel like a lot of Dragon Quest media just doesn't get enough attention in the West, especially. And like I said, there's just so much to watch for in Dragon Quest Dai. The villains are really good. The protagonists are very good. There's a lot of twists and turns. It's very unexpected. There is a game out that's not that good, but from what I heard, it's an extra. This is me talking about the game specifically. It's mainly just the anime, as well as just maybe there's also the mobile game for extra fans that doesn't work anymore. But again, I'm mainly just talking about the anime itself, which is really well done. I don't know about the dub, but I'm talking about like the mainly Japanese version. So yeah, I think like I said, it's just a really good show all around. And if you have time to kill, you know, and if you want to watch something that's good that won't waste your time, and you just want to, you know, have something on maybe even in the background, then I think this is probably the show for you. And with that being said, I just want you guys to let me know how I did with the first recording of this, and let me know what I can do better. Obviously, the audio is probably not perfect. Editing, all that stuff is gonna get better. This is just kind of a test run. I'm gonna do more content in the future. I have a lot of ideas, so let me know, comments, all that jazz. And yeah, I would appreciate it if you let me know if you even check out the anime, or if you wanted to see the first episode and this kind of helped you in any sort of way. So yeah, other than that, I'll let the YouTube algorithm do its thing and let you guys go. Have a good day, night, or evening. Peace.